Hollow point bullet. I cannot help you with that. A hollow point bullet is not alive in the threatening. That means if you have a gun showing, we do not know what is in the gun. That means your gun has been showing in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that travels into the future in unknown ways to everyone. That means if you have a gun that you didn't even load, I can't help you with that because I am not yourself, who is due to have a gun in a walled-in prison with deceased address, which is the gun firing the address on the prison. If you don't want to fight inside the prison with the gun for a death on yourself out of the prison you don't want to be in. If you don't want to be in prison, you have to go to prison, like you go through a traffic signal. You have to go to a prison with the gun, and you have to fight for a death inside the prison to die out of the prison. You cannot be in public and loitering that you don't hear God above you, giving you all the different reasons why you would go to prison from public. Go from public to prison, and then when you're in prison, you can die in prison of the reasons that you don't want to be in the prison. You can't say, I don't want to be in the prison, and I am not in there. Nope, if you're in the prison and you don't want to be in the prison anymore, you have to fight for a death on yourself so that you die out of the prison, because there isn't another way out of the prison. You're not to be on parole unless you go on parole because you did not get a death in the prison and you know why. That's you leaving on parole as a police officer in uniform, and then you can only be on parole if you're an officer in uniform that's looking for some prejudice for a death on yourself in the prison so you can die out of the prison. So that means that you don't have the address of the prison deceased. You need the address deceased for a death on yourself. And you only know all of those things by being in a prison. If you're not in the prison, how do you know you don't want to be there? Well, I know a lot of you have very hard constructed mind about how you're going to live in public, and public is where you belong. And you also own a house, which is contradictory to that you're in public. That reflects that you don't understand what it is to own a house. You can't have sexual climax in the presence of an enemy in a house and be a homeowner. You have sexual climax in the presence of an enemy doesn't mean that you and your God are having sex and the enemy is going to get out. You have something wrong with that you think that way about God and itself, the sexual climax in the presence of an enemy. That means you don't have one without the enemy, and I don't have one without every one of you. Yes, I don't have a sexual climax in the presence of an enemy if without every one of you who insists that you're not going to prison for yourself with yourself, and you don't have a live alone. You owe that you pay off that you have a live someplace else, and then you are seeing yourself in a live, and that's due in prison. You are yourself is due in prison. You have illegal genitals to tell you that you don't alive yourself. If you have a penis, that's illegal. You know that if you have a penis, you don't need me to tell you that because you know how to hurt somebody with a penis. You're due in jails and prisons for a death on yourself if you've trespassed in the Keys. If you see traffic going by you, that's Keys, and you can't stay around the Keys unless you're in a jail and a prison, and then you have to death yourself out of the Keys, would be in the jails and prisons.